Hello everyone, I'm Peggy Neely Harris, and this is Peggy's Creative Art Space Podcast, your 30 minutes of connecting with creative conversation. And this is how we start off.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome back. This is your free space to connect and collect as much information as you want in the arts, in workshops, special guests, historical tidbits, and terminology in the arts. Today's Women's History Month podcast guest is about arts and health and wellness. So let's just go ahead and get started. Hello everyone, I'm Peggy Neely Harris, and this is Peggy's Creative Art Space Podcast, a weekly podcast that brings on people who utilize the arts in so many different ways in their lives. Today, it's still Women's History Month, and I'm bringing on some fierce women who have wonderful, wonderful things that they're doing in their lives. So please welcome Miss Karen Tripp of Cancer.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Peggy. What a delight.
You're wonderful, Karen. Karen, you are from Cancer Companions, and just tell us briefly what that is, how long you started it, and what gave you the idea to start Cancer Companions. And we'll talk about how you're putting art all into this wonderful organization. Take it over, Karen.
Right. Well, we will do that. All right. So yeah, Cancer Companions is a cancer ministry that ends up training volunteers from churches to be able to reach out to people with cancer. Some of our volunteers do weekly phone calls. We call them Cancer Prayer Partners, where they call every week, touch base, find out what they can pray for, just kind of being that consistent touch for them. And then our other volunteers run cancer Bible studies.
Wow.
Some of those are online, some of those are in person, for all kinds of people with different kinds of cancer. So, and we're 10 years old.
10 years? Oh, wow. It's been a long time. I don't recall, I guess, being around you for 10 years, but I guess I have, huh?
Yes. The
so
video series that we got introduced to each other, that was almost 10 years ago. Yeah.
I'm so glad we met. It's been a wonderful journey for me, and I know you've done some extraordinary things. And because this is an arts podcast, I want you to tell the audience all about your degree, basically, and basically how you felt the need of bringing in your creativity into the arts to make this a wonderful transition with people who have cancer. So what is your degree in? And tell us how you decide to bring in the arts to help you out.
Absolutely. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. My degree is in a master's degree in marriage and family therapy.
Okay.
So, but the way that I ended up doing my work as a counselor is that I really believe that being a good counselor is about being able to communicate to people with the way they hear things in their mind. And as I started designing the materials for my volunteers to work with, I wanted there to be more ways to do that than just a conversation.
Yes.
And so that was part of the writing components and being able to have materials that are written that they review together. That also goes into the video component of trying to be able to have videos, which is a whole different way of people experiencing the messages, as well as we've even put together some Spotify list of different types of songs that we thought would be great for while you're in your cancer battle and things like that too. And so there's different ways of just trying to find that place that we're communicating in the way people can receive it.
Wonderful. That is so great. So I do know that you have a ton of books that you've written on cancer. And basically, I met you, I know, when you were getting ready to put an internet video series together.
Yes.
How did you come up with an idea of utilizing so many wonderful artists to come in and kind of help smooth this cancer information, to your people? How did you come up with that idea? It's wonderful. And tell us the name of that series.
Yes, it was a video series called Innermost Thoughts. And after having spent years working with folks that were coping with cancer, I knew that the tendency is for people to say, I'm fine. Yeah. And there's nothing really wrong. And so that when you're sitting in a group interaction, trying to be able to get people to talk, having these videos, I wanted a video that would motivate the people to automatically share with themselves. I had ended up finding out that when people first started using my Bible study materials with folks with cancer, some of them were having sessions that only lasted like 40, 45 minutes, which to me was impossible. Like, they obviously were not getting very good conversation going if they could end them that quickly. And so I needed a video that would end up engaging the people and having them open up to their emotional things. And that's why I called it Innermost Thoughts. And so I went out and I interviewed 8 different folks that were coping with cancer. And I tape recorded their interviews with me. And then from those 8 different audio recordings, I basically came up with 3 characters that I ended up writing a script for the video series. So one was a single woman who had breast cancer and lived alone. One was a man who had lung cancer and had 2 teenage sons and was married. And the third was Bonnie, which is the part that you played, which was a grandmother whose husband ended up having throat cancer. And so literally the script, I took actual verbiage, actual words off of those audio tapes that people with cancer actually said. And I think that's some of the power of the videos, plus the acting, obviously. But I can't tell you how many times people have been in our support groups and they believe that those 3 actors are really cancer survivors just telling their story. And so that, I mean, it's the highest quality thing we produce, hands down.
I was
really wonderful.
I was overjoyed to be in that. But I think in a way, we really were not acting because, you know, cancer touches everyone. Even if you're not the person with cancer, your family is also involved in the process as well. You know, so, and at the time, I know I had a wonderful time doing it, but I know I couldn't even get through it, some parts of it, when the director was giving me, you know, directions, because I was thinking about my own sister, because it touched me so much to see her going through cancer, you know, and finally she did a wonderful job, you know, and, you know, her prognosis and things like that. But in the end, it eventually took her life, but it was not an act for me. So I believe what you wrote, it made me feel so close to her. Your scripting was so point on. And then maybe because you did really speak to actual people to write it. So
verbatim. I mean, there are people that I interviewed who have watched the video series and they can hear the little snippets of this is me and this is me. And that's exciting, you know, that it's got that genuine kind of a feel, and it works. People sit there and they listen to you as Bonnie, the caregiver, talking about how hard this is and how guilty you feel sometimes, and, you know, how worried you get and those kind of things. And then you turn the video off and people say, well, sometimes I feel like Bonnie.
Everything changes when you hear it's cancer. He said the doctor said it was throat cancer. George had been complaining about his throat hurting, which should have told me something because he never complained. So I told him to go see the doctor. But George hates going to the doctor. And about a week or 2 after that, his voice started to change. It got all gruff sounding. So finally he went. I didn't know. He saw all these doctors and took all these tests and never said a word until tonight. And now he says he doesn't want to tell the girls until we know more.
And so it works. That's the real beauty of it. Not just that it's a great video series, but that it works to get people to say, yes, I see what Bonnie's saying and I so relate to what she's going through.
And so I am so happy you decided to put the arts into that series, because I think it touches us in so many different ways. And I know you know it. And speaking of art, you really are actually an artist yourself, because you have written a number of books. Tell us about them. You don't have to go into detail on them, but, you know, I have one right here in front of me.
That's my first Christmas book I wrote. But yeah, it all kind of started when you find out a therapist writes a book. Typically what happens is we write a book for our patients and we're just like, just read the book, you know, which is terrible. But so the first 2, one's called God is Bigger Than Your Cancer. Another one is called God is Bigger Than Your Grief. And both of those are just small little books, because when people are going through cancer and grief, they don't want 500 pages.
No.
You know, they just want something easy.
Sure.
The third one I did is a Christmas Bible study that you had there. And then the other three books that I've written have been specifically for cancer companions. They are these Bible studies that our volunteers use to be able to have conversations about Jesus and cancer at the same time. And so that's how they're designed.
Yes, and you are such a wonderful person to bring that up, because I just love your energy. I love your ease. When I met you, I guess it was 10 years ago, when I met you, I'd never felt the ease of talking to someone about health problems like that. And you made it so simple and so personal. You know, it's like a one-on-one thing. So that's one thing I know about you. And I just love about your organization, because I know you're wanting people to feel that thing, you know.
Exactly. And as volunteers, I mean, our volunteers go through a training, but, you know, the Bible studies that I write, they're a crutch. You know, they're to give the volunteer an ability to actually have questions a counselor wrote that a counselor would end up saying to a person who's coping with cancer. And so it helps them to have that tool to be able, once again, it's not just that it's a good book, it's that it works. That volunteers know how to use it and to have effective, meaningful relationships through it.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've written so many books. So, and what was the span of time, you know, that you did all of these books? Did it start just 10 years ago? Or were you already in the process of thinking about writing? Because we are talking about artists, you know, artistry.
Right. Yes. No, the first three books came before the ministry did. And so God is Bigger Than Your Cancer was the very first book that I wrote. And it very much was about that sense that I know people that I'm working with cancer, and they need this. You know, they need something on paper that's been written down, that kind of, what the book has is 4 testimonials of people that are coping through cancer, and then 4 devotionals that go with it. And so, there's just something about hearing other people's stories. And it's not that they're the most horrific cancer stories. It's that they had a God moment during it. That's what the power of the testimonial is that through them going through their cancer, it drew them closer to Christ. And so that's a powerful piece that can end up happening there. So those were pretty fast. And then the new ones, the Bible study ones that I ended up writing, have really been spanned out over the 10 years. The last one, I think I finished maybe about 18 months ago, the Christmas one. And so, but there's always something I'm writing in my head. Like I already have notes on the next thing.
See, I told you.
Just like artists do, you know, we are always kind of like, you know. No, I have little books I carry in my purse to be able to write down ideas in and all of that stuff. So yeah, you don't know when it hits.
Yeah. So how was the journey? Do you have a lot of input from your family? I know you have a new baby, grandbaby daughter.
I've got now I have 2. My second one, we have a newborn grandson that was just born 10 days ago, which is
my goodness.
And I have a 19-month-old granddaughter, his big sister. And so, so that is definitely inspiration. But no, in terms of the material that I write, I really write from it more from my client's perspective. But there's also things about me personally. My father was a 23-year colon cancer survivor. And my stepmom died of breast cancer back in the 90s when I was just out of college. And so those stories obviously have impacted me. And the way that I end up engaging it, to the material in general. It's funny, when I first started writing about cancer, it very much felt like the Lord was telling me to do that. And it seemed ridiculous because I'm not a cancer survivor. And it just was like, God, why are you calling me to do this when it's not me? But it drove me to get those stories and to hear from people. And same kind of thing. People become surprised to find out I'm not a cancer survivor. But I think that once they get into the material and they start to experience a little bit, it seems to help them to see that I really have done my research. And it's not, I don't do book learning. I want to hear it from people. I want to hear people's stories rather than let me go learn about what people are saying people think about cancer. That's not helpful.
Got it. So you go right into the, right there with eye to eye with the person.
Yes. Lots of interviews, lots of finding out people's stories. And then that's what I write about, the stories.
And then there was another project that you did about exercising. Since you know all about what it takes to keep a healthy body, mind, and spirit when a person has been diagnosed with cancer, how did you come up with that great idea about walking, kicking cancer in the butt?
Did you know that consistent brisk walking can lower your risk of cancer? Don't worry, Cancer Companions knows how hard it can be to develop a strong exercise habit. That's why they've developed games.
One of our, my second Bible study that I wrote actually has a section, one section on nutrition and another section that's just on exercise. And in doing all of the research around that understanding, it became really apparent that people don't always connect those two things. That if I'm in cancer treatment, I need to be in motion. I need to move. And I think that's not what we typically think of. We think if we're going to be in cancer treatment, we need to lay around.
Yes.
Yet really what they find is that it's amazing how much it ends up helping the whole process of having a longer life, having a more vibrant life, if you continue to move while you're going through cancer treatment, even on the days you don't feel like it, right? And I'm not talking, climbing Mount Everest here. I'm just talking about moving and whatever pace it is that you can do. And so that just felt like an important message to be able to get out to people, I think.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I love being a part of that one as well, you know, trekking and stuff like that. That was wonderful. So I know a lot of people might be listening to this podcast today and they have no idea about I got the research about men and women. I just did something with you this month about cancer research and then the effect they have on some men. And can you talk about the film that we talked about with Mr. Matthew Knowles in that?
Yes. Yeah. So we, our large event of the year is called 30 Days of Cancer Prayer, where we go out and we connect with prominent Christians in the community for them to do a Bible verse prayer specifically for us on video. And then for 30 days, it usually runs through the month of February. We end up having one a day for 30 days. And this year we were very excited to have Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles, to be able to be one of the video prayer warriors that we had. He's a cancer survivor. He's actually a breast cancer survivor and has done some wonderful stuff of going out there trying to be an advocate for don't forget the men, you know, and it's not a large percentage, but you can imagine how awkward it is for men to walk into these pink, you know, cancer suites, you know,
women, you know.
Oh, exactly. And to be able to make a statement about that. So yes, he did a beautiful, beautiful prayer for us that was about cancer victory and our need to be able to just feel the victories along the way and believe that God can make us victorious through it. And yeah, that was huge. That was wonderful.
I'm Matthew Knowles, and I'm a cancer survivor. And I thank Cancer Companions and 30 Day of Cancer Prayer for giving me this opportunity to share with you. I remember like it was yesterday when I heard those words, "You have cancer." It reminded me of a story, a trip that I once took to Los Angeles, going down the escalator. And there was a nun from Mexico who had a jar that says, "Please give to the missionary." I gave, and she gave me a card, and it took me weeks before I read the back of that card. This is the prayer that I want to share with you. It said, "Pray not for a life free from trouble. Pray for triumph over trouble. For what you and I call adversity, God, the universe, calls opportunity." Let me tell you, when I heard those words, my mind immediately went to that prayer. So my question, what was the amazing opportunity that we were given? I'm Matthew Knowles. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Peggy Neely Harris, and today I am doing twofold. I'm doing my regular weekly podcast with Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast, and also I'm going to use my arts to try to bring a little hope and healing at a wonderful, wonderful event today at Garden Prairie Presbyterian Church, where we're preparing to do arts and all kinds of beautiful craft with the illustrious founder and creator of Cancer Companion, carrying Tripp. So I'm just out here trying to do a little bit of sound check and see all the people that are coming in who are performing. So
if you haven't had a chance yet, please do so.
this is Karen and Kristen.
Hello. Matching shirts.
Yeah, I know. Well, we all have on jeans today, but they have the matching shirts on. But I did my armor today.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
We're
all
battling
right.
cancer
We're battling
with prayer.
cancer. That's right. So I was just explaining to everybody on my Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast that I'm here using my craft of the arts to help bring hope, healing, and awareness to what you're doing, which is Cancer Companions. So say hey to Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast.
Hey, you podcast people. We love Bonnie. She rocks. She's a superstar in the world of Cancer Companions.
I was Bonnie in one of her
stars.
films. Yes. So you're gonna be seeing Miss Karen later on this month in the month of March, which is Women's History Month. We rock, don't we, women?
Yes.
Yeah. So hey yo, there we go. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be around in a minute. Awesome. I'm gonna go up here and get one more person, which is Clayton, awesome guitar player and piano player as well. We often show up at this event every time Karen has an event like this because we are so dedicated to the arts and we want to make sure that we are a part of the arts and kind of turn this around. Hello guys, how are you?
All right.
Awesome. This is Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast where Karen is going to be a guest this month because she is a fierce woman for the month of March. Hey, this is Clayton on the piano and he also plays guitar. Yep. And I forgot your name already?
Steven.
Steven is the almighty tech guy here at Northern Prairie.
Ain't anything special. Come on now.
So just doing a little bit of there you go. Awesome. Just doing a little bit of sound checking.
Well, let's talk about living in a culture where things will surely shake. If you got a lot of investments in their vault, you got a lot at stake. And if the measure of all things is haughty human beings, then what do you got that they just can't take? Well, let's run it down.
That was great. Yeah, I loved it too. I really love that. So when you, I guess, get feedback and so forth from people, does that propel you to go on more and more and, trying to make everyone's life a little bit more peaceful and graceful if they're going through cancer, no matter what the prognosis is? So
yeah,
what's your plan for the future now?
Well, yeah, good for you to ask. I mean, the more that you get into this, the more you start to think, what am I missing? And that's where each of the next pieces kind of come. So I get the feedback from the volunteers and particularly saying, Karen, we need more of this, or this isn't being talked about. Mm-hmm. I really am excited about hopefully within the next year, starting a project that will be for folks in hospice. And so it'll be a Bible study that I'll specifically write for people, both the caregiver and the patient, to be able to help for those days and those times that they're going through their hospice ministry. The other is that, which I'm really excited about, this one will probably be completed first. I've always wanted there to be a 365-day cancer devotional. Wow. That every day you could end up reading a short little something. It was written specifically about scripture and specifically about cancer. Only I don't have time to write 365 devotionals. So God started plopping people into my life. And we've got a team together now of 12 people. There's 12 of us that are writing devotionals. We've got over 250 of them put together already.
Oh my God.
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm really hoping we can get it together to maybe launch January 1st, 2023. But it'll end up being on the internet as well as it'll be published. And these authors have been there. I've got one gentleman who was actually a childhood cancer survivor.
Oh my.
I've got another one who is a pastor who has struggled with stage 4 lung cancer, and two women with breast cancer survivors, and just lots of people who have been there writing the devotionals. And so we're excited to be able to see how that's going to launch.
Wonderful. So what are your regions? you're not just in St. Louis, you have, connections all over. So what are you planning as far as taking this message all over the world? Tell us about the regions that you service and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're in 24 different states. We have 73 teams of volunteers in those states. And but the beauty, believe it or not, I mean, it's funny to think of COVID as having the positive outcome, but for our ministry, it really did. What it did was it got people over the anxiety of Zoom, of being able to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so now, and it's so funny because we were trying to poke. I mean, I've got over 400 volunteers. We're trying to poke some of them. Come on, guys, let's go on Zoom. Let's try to do it online. You can reach more people. And they were, I mean, literally we had zero, nobody. And that first fall, it was March when COVID really kicked in. And by September, we had 26 online national Bible studies that were going, that people were just like, it's what we got to do. It's what we got to do. We're not going to wait for people to show up when we can meet face to face. And that made a huge, huge difference. And so even though we're in specific states, now we're serving anybody, anywhere. We've got a team in South Africa, which is very exciting. Yes, and I'm real excited about that. And we have participants from as far away as India. We have a couple in Ireland. And so because of that online feature, we just have a way to be able to serve people from anywhere. It's exciting.
It's wonderful to be able to connect because it's such a vital piece of information about cancer. Like I said, it doesn't affect that one person. It affects the entire family. Right. When you have someone in dealing with cancer or whatever. It is so wonderful. I love that about what you're doing. And if people are watching, from St. Louis, how would you want to get them more involved as well? I know you're talking about region, in your future or whatever, different regions in your future, but what can people in St. Louis do to help you spread the Cancer Companion Program, spread this cancer information? Can they utilize you? Can they bring you into their church, their organizations? Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. I love to go out and visit churches. I love to go out and speak at places that people are interested in learning more about what we're doing. And just for people that care about cancer ministry, just people that really do believe that when you're going through cancer, you need to draw closer to Christ rather than pull farther away. And our materials help people to be able to do that. And we've done studies that end up showing that 79% of the people that have completed our program have ended up saying that they had decrease in anxiety, and 91% had decrease in depression. And so that's a little thing. That's a pretty cool thing. But the way to be able to get connected, if you know folks that are coping with cancer, send them to our website, cancercompanions.org. And you'll find on there lots of tools. There's a place where it says find a study if you think they'd like to be part of an online group. There's lots of devotionals and things they can just read right from there. Lots of things out there. And there's also a tab that says become a volunteer. And if you feel like, hey, I might be a person that would like to, make a phone call once a week to somebody that's coping with cancer to show I care, or maybe you'd like to lead one of these Bible studies online, we would love to have you. So
wonderful. And how long is a study program? How long?
Different teams run them for different lengths. And so some of them only have one meeting a month. And then other ones will end up meeting once a week. And then we have quite a few that'll end up doing twice a month. So every kind of team kind of figures out their own, every volunteer figures out their own level of investment.
Got it. But the most important thing is to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. So one more time, just repeat that website. So if folks are watching and they really want to get involved in this, because this is artistry. Art is a ministry. And what you're doing is so big in the arts. So that's why I want to have you on, just to show folks that we can do art in health as well.
Obviously. Absolutely. Would love that. So it's www.cancercompanions.org, cancercompanions.org.
Oh, Karen, thank you so very much for being a part of Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast. And we are looking forward to having you on again as you grow your ministry and your involvement, because you are awesome. You guys may not believe this, but this lady has so much energy. And so
I don't know, Peggy. You shame me sometimes. You are spinning plates, lady. I'm impressed with it.
Well, fantastic. I will definitely show some of our work that we did in the 30 Days of Cancer this month, so people can see what you were actually doing and so forth, and what part I played the part that I play, in your organization. So thank you so very much. And we are signing off with Karen Tripp, Peggy's Creative Art Space Podcast, How Cancer and Art Works Together. Thank you so much, Karen. Peace.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, dear.
Thank you for our special guest. Come back next week. We've got more. Today's creative tip is arm yourself with as much industry knowledge as possible. I often enroll in theater workshops and seminars for myself as a teaching artist so I can stay informed and learn more from my students that I work with. So today, I'm going to give a shout out to Springboard to Learning and Repertory Theater of St. Louis for their Wise Right program. They have a wonderful, enormous amount of tips, and their 10 elements of a well-scripted play is great. We'll start off there, and then we're going to mosey on to Lincoln Center Institute in New York City, where I packed up a lot of wonderful information while I was there to bring back to you. But until then, arm yourself.
Maya Angelou. Did you know her life was filled with boundless accomplishments? It said she was impossible to define. Author, actress, screenwriter, dancer, poet, and civil rights activist. Born in St. Louis, Missouri on April 4th, 1928 as Marguerite Johnson, later introduced to the world as Maya Angelou. At the age of 7, after a tragic incident, Maya spent 5 years in silence. During that time, she read every book in the library she can get her hands on. In the 1940s, Maya became the first black female streetcar conductor in San Francisco. In 1952, Maya Angelou married a Greek sailor named Tosh, from whom she took her professional name. In the 50s, she landed a role in touring production of Porgy and Bess and became a member of the Harlem Writers Guild. Over her career, she wrote 36 books and also published cookbooks. I've learned what people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Today's parting thought is know your own self-worth. No matter how many artistic people that you are around who try to get you to focus on their agenda by playing down your own gifts and talents, don't let them do it. Don't let anyone dull your self-worth for theirs. And when you feel that happening, stand up for yourself and press on.
Special thanks to Good Shepherd Art Center, New Awakening UMC Church, My Taste Creatives, IH Productions. If you or someone you know would like to advertise or simply have your logo displayed on our podcast, give us a call at 314-521-6388.
Now I heard of a way of living. You'll be blessed simply by giving. If it comes straight from the heart, blessed assured, then you know you have done your part. Given good measure, shaken together, surely running over. Love opens up and makes more room. Watch the blessings come right back to you.